Good morning, everybody. Just doing a little, I'm laughing, I'm praying this morning, getting ready to go to church. You know, real quick, I'll try and cover what I'm laughing about. This week, the DA situation and all the wonderful crimes that are committed in the city by police officers. And this week, in order for this DA to challenge now that they got exposed, that they're using a medical director and they got him to try and change his testimony. Their response in court was, this came out in the paper, the actual DA's office said, there's a whole website on this medical director, which I guess there is, the medical examiner, Adol Skaker or whatever his name is, and they said it's a whole website on how he is corrupt and he's had many problems. They brought that out in court. The DA's office, the prosecutor, who hired this man to testify in death cases, murder cases, in order to defend themselves, they're saying he has such a corrupt history, and there's a website about him on the whole history of how corrupt he is, and they use that as their defense. Do you understand? This is the same medical examiner that you hired to work for you for cases. Why would you go out and hire somebody who you are aware that has a whole website about him that he's corrupt? And then you're admitting that he was one of your medical examiners. Maybe you hoped that he would be the type that when you went up to him and said, change your testimony, that he would be willing. Maybe you purposely went out to find somebody that was corrupt. You're aware he's corrupt. The DA themselves and their lawyers now who are trying to defend the criminal activities that they commit regularly use that as an excuse. It's amazing, isn't it? It's amazing because he was hired by this so-called justice system to examine, medical examiner for homicides. And they were fully aware that he had a website about him to expose his corruption. That's how they defend themselves. Isn't that amazing? You could defend yourself by saying, the people we hired, so you should throw out every case that he ever ruled on. Every case that you ever ruled on using corrupt, false guys. And it just so happens you figured, well, we'll get this guy to change his testimony. He's the type of guy we like in the Hayden case. Isn't that amazing? Isn't that amazing? This ain't a teaching video, but these will roll out so you could just get a perception, okay? You could see, I am reading Corinthians, and Paul says God will destroy the wisdom of the wise. The wisdom, the foolishness of God is smarter than the wisdom of the wise. It could turn into a teaching video. I'm honest. Paul said to the Corinthians, he said, as a wise master builder, I have laid the foundation. And other foundation can no man lay, which is Jesus Christ. And let every man take heed how he builds upon that foundation. If he builds on it perishable things, then the day will declare it. There's a day, not only a future day of fire and judgment, but in our lives there's a day. And what that scripture Paul was saying was, there comes a time where God will bring to light all of the hidden things of dishonesty. There will come a day where all of the hidden things, this whole justice system depends upon true testimony. Scripture says God is just as upset when the guilty go free, which the prosecutors and justice system, that's what they're supposed to be concerned with, getting the guilty. But it says he's just as upset when the innocent are found guilty. And they might have justified getting those two boys, gang kids that were Hispanic, probably got the wrong kids, and they sent one of them to many years in prison for a shooting. And it seems as if they might have just thought, he's a Mexican gang kid. Whether it's the right one or not, God's just as upset with that. So now, all of the hidden things of dishonesty come to light, even in this whole case that's being played out. You're just seeing just now, that little insight I just gave you, is they knew they were working with a medical examiner that was corrupt, according to them, and now the DA's defense, and they're trying to prevent criminal charges and an arrest on the chief lawyer of this city. And I gave you all my dealings with, not only do they use words and deceptively and false testimony, but they work in, look, prosecutors work in collusion with police officers. And I gave you cases where there's actual acts of violence committed by officers in the city. People I know. Not arrests, but going out after them and getting them. Assault, battery. So that's not a justice system. You understand? So there's a day where all of the hidden things come to light. And you have the chief so-called law enforcement official in this city in court already, making statements that implicate them in crimes. You say, what statements were made? They went back and forth already, admitting they withheld evidence. The prosecutor, Jenny Dorsey, saying she went to the DA and said, should we have revealed this evidence that would have been beneficial for the defense? He said no. And then her person that's directly over Jenny Dorsey, her name is Rita Cable, she said, of course you're supposed to reveal that. And then they quickly try to get a new trial to cover up, but it all has come to light now. And this is just what you see. Deception, denying. Okay? So, when you see all these things, these verses, then know that the kingdom is here. When you see you will be brought before rulers and judges, Jesus said to the disciples, for a testimony against them. And in that day, do not premeditate what you are going to say, because it is not you that speak, but it is the Spirit of my Father in you. And so Jesus was telling the disciples, you will have altercations and interactions even with the law back in that day, the Roman justice system, so you would give a testimony. And Peter writes in his epistle, Jesus gave a testimony before Pilate. And you read the scripture in the book of Acts, Paul has a lot of court proceedings. And in those proceedings, and those were cases just dealing with the gospel, okay? But in those proceedings, the testimony of God came out. And so sometimes God permits, it's very rare that you'd have a chief law enforcement lawyer of a city, a district attorney, committing to crimes, trying to say their own medical examiner, who they hired, fully knowing his history. Now they're saying, oh, he's corrupt. He's got a history of corruption. So that, I guess that one instance of justice when you tried to get him to change his testimony, and you did, he said, I could live with the gun being 3 feet. Okay, I'm corrupt, but you guys, you're real open about it in this DA's office. Okay? I will give you mouth and wisdom where all your adversaries will need to be able to gainsay or resist. Just perceive things. And then you follow these things as I post them the next day or two a week. God bless.